Hey, good morning. This is Thomas Lee, TJ Johnson. Going to talk to you today about anticipating biotech supply chain shocks. Um, Thank you for joining this live webinar. Um, I actually started writing Lean Forward on an international strategy consulting assignment in Latin America, specifically Mexico City. When I noticed the same anti-patterns that plagued my multinational customers in America were the same in Latin America as well. And even though I was in Mexico City, I had representatives from all 33 Latin American countries in a strategic conference I was helping co-lead. Agile Immersive former customers also include Humana Health, Piedmont Health Systems of Atlanta, and Medical Technology Enterprise Consortium located in the Mid-Atlantic region. COVID-19 has introduced some significant supply chain shocks to US biotech companies. One driving rationale for locking down the US economy was that the US economy was not, biotech companies were not able to adapt and address COVID-19 and its symptoms, and therefore US healthcare capacity would be overrun and we would not be able to help the sick. And so therefore the death toll was going to be even higher than it is. We've also shed $7 trillion in over 10 years of economic growth to date. Uh, Apparently, our biotech is not elastic and is not transparent, and so we have a problem set that we are presented with. Prior to COVID-19, pharmaceutical engineering was already experiencing a number of challenges. That includes the patent cliff. There is a weak phase-out management, and there's suboptimal process return flows. The patent cliff is estimated to be up to $198 billion. That is the result of patents expiring on some of the most well-known pharmaceuticals across the industry. Phase out, where stock that is either no longer being prescribed heavily or is just outdated, is also not being phased out in a methodical, optimized way. And neither are the return flows that actually would result from phase out. But wait, there's more. Before COVID, pharmaceutical engineering was also experiencing some inconsistencies in maturity and culture, inconsistencies in organization, information technology systems. They were either outdated, uh, versioned, not kept up to date, or merely just inadequate to match current industry performance needs, as well as people management. The maturity models in how people are managed, knowledge workers specifically, are managed in the 21st century in the pharmaceutical engineering field is inadequate. Transparency, traceability were also low, and root cause analysis was also poor. And this is not just merely the conclusion of Agile Immersive or myself. This is actually the conclusion of the International Society of Pharmaceutical Engineering, and so of which I'm a member. And so there's thousands of people who agree with me. These are serious problems. Now, after COVID, we also have additional challenges. We have a demand spike on APIs, our active pharmaceutical ingredients. We also have demand spikes in therapeutics associated with COVID-19 recovery, like nebulizers. And we have a supply shock on raw materials. Uh, Nations all over the world are competing for the same raw materials, potentially for therapeutics and the pharmaceuticals that can actually address uh, COVID-19. When I wrote Lean Forward, I saw the challenge that was arising from information age companies that were leveraging machine learning and artificial intelligence and increased automated processes. I noticed that these leading edge companies still had wastes associated with the industrial age. These industrial age wastes were starting to be coupled with the information age frictions that result just by nature of a company transitioning into the information age. If these information age frictions are not addressed, they will grow. So the Distill Flow Feedback Probe cycle is what I invented to break the power of industrial age wastes that are coupled with information age frictions that are keeping companies, pharmaceutical engineering companies specifically, in what I call the maze. Um, the pharmaceutical engineers that can break the maze of both information age waste um, and industrial age waste are going to be uh, in the best position to really realize the goals and objectives of pharmaceutical or pharma 4.0. There's a process and machine learning tool associated with breaking these, utilizing the DFFP cycle that allow and enable a change in culture, a change in ritual, what's done on a daily and weekly basis within pharmaceutical engineering that allow enhanced predictability in a maturity model. A lot of the work that is done in Distill, in the DFFP cycle of Distill Flow Feedback Probe, a lot of that work has been done or is being done within the the International Society of Pharmaceutical Engineering, Pharma 4.0, as well as the International Conference on Harmonization, or ICH, specifically Q10. And the distill step really leverages existing knowledge to the current context of pharmaceutical engineers for swift capture of small action steps that can be taken on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. The distill step really includes existing work in addition to aforementioned the GAMP, GMP, and GMD, and really operates within the DFFP cycle based on the level of the team or individual that's doing the work in question. I bring up the DFFP and specifically this approach because this this approach can actually address all of the problem statements, or a majority of the problem statements I mentioned at the top of this talk, the beginning of this talk, and really methodically and predictably get and keep pharmaceutical engineering companies on track so that ICH Q10 Pharma 4.0 is realized in a tactical way in company. So, for example, given digital maturity being enabled as we go from level 1 with our process here to level 2 and to level 3, if the leader of GlaxoSmithKline were to use the distill step, those objectives perhaps for the quarter would be distilled into verifiable guidance for precision medicine models, for instance. A chemist for another organization like Dow would distill the active pharmaceutical ingredients orders in her inbox into a test log for compounds required. These are just quick examples of what could be done within the distill step using the quality standards already created for by ICH Q10 and focused on bringing Pharma 4.0 to life across each organization and contributor. The flow step within the DFFP cycle is focused on throughput, output, and speed to market. Uh, the Pharma 4.0 has already created a digital maturity model for resources, information systems, culture, as well as resources, as well as organization and processes. So the flow step would take the test logs created in the distill step and execute them as quickly as possible while meeting validation or test expectations and maintaining quality. The idea then is for uh, the flow step to accelerate what has been captured as actions to be tested and then performed, tested and then created, tested and created, and being prepared for customer feedback. There really is a culture change to flow. The idea of flow dates all the way back to lean manufacturing and the Toyota manufacturing approach, invented by Sakichi Toyota in the 1930s in his textile mill. The industrial age waste that we'll identify just in a couple of moments come from Sakichi Toyota, and they are the enemies. The waste is the enemy of flow, of throughput, of speed to market. So the culture change really needs to take place at every level that's contributing to flow. And that means that the processes for quality systems are the basis for the company. And departments need to work together. There needs to be an intensive collaboration to pass the test. And we create everything, and the outcome of our distill step are test first logs, so that the test first mentality saturates every step of our cycle. This would really enforce the culture change and would reduce the quality system overhead that we currently have in pharmaceutical engineering, and really would be an integrated approach for output and validation. Feedback is collected across every level within a customer, both an internal customer as well as an external customer or a stakeholder that's associated with our pharmaceutical. We're going to use everything from our devices, our actual customer devices, as well as uh, collecting metadata on the consumables. We're going to do everything we can for internal customers, the different layers of business, distribution, production. If there's tolling, how we toll will be captured, and feedback from just every individual value-added step is captured and considered in our feedback. Our probe step then takes customer feedback and then examines it. We really want to learn from both our customers, as well as we want to evaluate what frictions and what wastes are associated with our production. So what that means is the industrial age wastes of defects, overproduction, waiting, unused talent, transportation, inventory, motion, extra processing is considered alongside the information age waste of flux, inventory, volume, errata, waiting, defects, mismatched business rules. We're considering all these things as we probe the outcomes of our feedback step so that we really have the optimized view on what our pharmaceutical engineering outcomes are. The probe step is emphasizing the reduction of friction so customers get optimal low friction pharma. The DFFP, the Distill Flow Feedback Cycle, is a part of a wider construct. The larger construct is called the Frictionless Enterprise, which is available in Lean Forward. It is driven by curiosity and elasticity, learning, and persistence. And there is an ever improving cycle within a cycle that really drives results. It's a three-dimensional compass that really enables pharmaceutical engineering to reach the ICH Q10 quality goals, and then continue past into the Pharma 4.0 objectives across our industry. We talked about what problems we had within pharmaceutical engineering before COVID. That included the patent cliff and phase out and suboptimal return flows, the inconsistencies in maturity and culture, organization, systems, and people, and people management, and low transparency and traceability and poor root cause analysis. We also understand that demand spikes, and both in APIs as well as in therapeutics, as well as raw material supply shocks, are realities that we have to face. We recommend that the Distill Flow Feedback Probe, or DFFP cycle, be leveraged to use the ICH Q10 and Pharma 4.0 principles and guidelines and quality standards so that we can hit the goals of those aforementioned guidelines and really make pharmaceutical engineering, bring it closer to its ideal state. And we can do that by leveraging those aforementioned frameworks in the DFFP cycle and by intensively working together. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar.